The original plan was to develop 10 Unity-based games that would be supported on both the Android and iOS platforms. These games also had to interface with Bluetooth-connected hardware provided by the sponsor. Although this was an ambitious scope, the team divided the project into 3 domains: game development, mobile application development, and hardware development. Alex and Allison were developing the Unity games, Adam was developing the mobile applications, and Hugh was working on the hardware integration. These domains helped to make the most of the team's limited knowledge and resources. This worked well as it allowed each member of the team to become an expert in their domain. While the separation allowed the project to keep moving forward, it did not allow team members to get exposure to other technologies from other domains. After a team member dropped the course in the fall of 2017, the scope was pared down to 5 Unity games to be supported only on the Android platform. There are several changes that could be recommended to hopefully increase the likelihood of success. For the mobile application domain, paring the scope down had little impact. Adam was able to focus on integrating the games into the provided Android application. Since this work was performed by a single team member, Adam did not have to worry about sharing tasks, allowing the mobile application development to progress. In the Unity domain, the team originally worked on the first 3 games concurrently rather than consecutively. This helped the team in the early stages of the project to learn how to use Unity. The last 2 games were completed in sequence in a straightforward fashion. By this point, the general learning phase was over and the team only really needed to learn solutions specific to the current game. If they were to continue on to more games beyond these 5, they would be able to complete them with the efficiency of the last 2. The hardware aspect of the project absorbed part of the team's effort over the full duration of the project, and there was no result to show for it. While hardware integration was part of the initial scope, the hardware was expected to work properly with the provided Android application on arrival and did not. The team spent time throughout the entire project either troubleshooting the hardware or attempting to build in the missing functionality. If the project were restarted, the team would not accept responsibility for the hardware after it became clear that it was not functioning.
For the game design, it was important that the games encourage proper motion to be useful as an exercise tool. Additionally, it was a key concern that the user's motions are directly exhibited on screen so that the player can understand what they are doing in the game. On screen is the lying knee flexion exercise and a screenshot of the Ollie Goes Fishing game. While the exercise targets the knee, Ollie the Octopus's motion across the log is mapped to the player's heel. This makes a more intuitive connection between the player and the game than anything involving the knee. Though the player's attention is drawn away from the knee in the game, the team kept it in focus for the game's incentives. Fish spawn in 5 possible locations, which map to specific target angles the player must bend their knee in order to reach. The fish that spawn at tougher angles are worth more points to encourage improvement from the player. The team did well in addressing these concerns, in theory, but without the hardware aspect of the project, it's strictly speculation how the games play on the knee tracker and how well the exercises are encouraged. It was not something that was in the ability of the team to fix, however, even if given the opportunity to start over from scratch. Given a fresh start, the best thing the team could have done was provide the most understandable structure and documentation possible, considering the fact that no matter what, this project will need to be passed off to another team for completion. The project grew clearer as it went on, but nothing can fully hide the learning process the team went through over the course of the project other than a fresh restart.
We used a variety of tools to complete this project. Android Studio was used for Android app development, Unity was used for game development, GitHub was our code repository, and Slack was our main form of communication. Android Studio, Unity, and Slack all worked well and were useful to our team. As you can see in this slide on the far left, we have a concept sketch drawn by Alex side by side with the final game screenshot. This was made via Unity, which can be seen in the screenshot on the right. One of the changes we made as a team was to change our sprint frequency. We spread out our frequency so that we had more meaningful updates for our sponsor. Some tasks would take a couple of weeks to finish, so we realigned our sprint meetings to match this cadence. Another change was how we handled Bluetooth hardware input. Due to missing API documentation, we had to limit the role of the hardware in the final product. If we started this project over, we would suggest a complete set of hardware documentation. More progress could have been made if we had these documents in the beginning. We also would suggest a set of Scrum tools to make product planning more efficient. In order to meet NDA requirements from the sponsor, our options were very limited as far as free or student editions of software. Having these Scrum tools up front would have been beneficial because of features such as user storyboards and burn-down charts. Overall, the tools that we selected as a team served us well in this project.
At the beginning of the project, the team was unfamiliar with Unity. Once they decided that it would be best to distribute specific functions of the development process to each team member, progress was steadily increased. Alex was working on designing the new games, Allison was polishing and updating requests from the sponsor, Adam was working on Android integration, and he was working with the hardware. The team held regular meetings with the project sponsor through Skype. At the beginning stages of development, it was necessary to hold these meetings weekly to evaluate the sponsor's expectations and decide if they were realistic. As progress was made throughout the semester, it was no longer necessary to meet as often, so the team decided to meet every other week unless there was an issue. During these meetings, project progress was discussed and new developments were demonstrated. The sponsor would give feedback and make certain requests or suggestions. The team would then discuss their action items they planned to accomplish by the next meeting. They would discuss any potential issues with the sponsor and would try to determine a course of action if necessary. Finally, the team would agree on the date of the next meeting. After many meetings with the sponsor, the team would stay online and have a team meeting. They would discuss any requests or suggestions made by the sponsor and decide how to handle them. The team would reiterate what plans they had for the following meeting and troubleshoot any issues they might have been having as a team. As a team, Slack and Git were useful in developing the Android application. Slack made it possible for the team to communicate throughout the day despite the time zone challenges, and also allowed for easy sharing of files such as images. Git and GitHub made it easy to track and update the code repository. By having the code in a single location, each team knew where their access to the latest version of code. As mentioned before, while Slack and GitHub worked well, it would have been useful to have a technical resource that could help resolve issues with tools like Asana and Git Workflow. On a couple of occasions, pushes were made to the master branch of the repository that overrode existing changes. This is because the team was unclear on how to properly create a feature branch and merge those changes to a master. While Asana worked well as a task management board, it was lacking Scrum or Agile tools like a storyboard and a burn-down chart that may have helped the team in project planning.